Hi, I'm Brent Benson, and I'm for equality.
I'm Jen Benson, and I'm for equality. My feeling is, living in this country, we have rights that are protected by the government, and I am an official. I'm a state rep from Massachusetts, and I feel that, the fabric of the country is stronger if we all can exercise the same rights and be equal to everyone else. So I feel very strongly that, as an American and as a patriot, really, that equality is essential to our form of government and for our society to work.
I grew up in a family that felt very strongly about civil rights in general, and I think that as I grew older, my parents mostly talked about civil rights for African Americans, for minorities in the United States, and as I grew older and met friends who were gay, who were openly gay, I got to know that they did not, weren't treated equally in the United States, and that made me feel like there was still a lot of work to do for civil rights in the United States, for equality.
One of the things that has angered me when we talk about marriage equality is that somehow it's going to hurt traditional marriage, and that's one of the big arguments that you hear against it. And marriage has been an equal opportunity endeavor here in Massachusetts for 7 years, and I don't feel like our marriage has been injured by that in any way. And so I think it's important to stand up and say, why is it okay for us to be married for 17 and a half years? And, our very good friends who have been together for longer than we have, haven't had that opportunity. We're going to celebrate our 18th wedding anniversary, and they're going to celebrate their 7th. But not because they didn't love each other, not because they didn't want to be together and make that commitment, but they couldn't. And how sad is that? And so I think for, just kind of regular old fuddy-duddies like us, to be able to say that, I think it's a beautiful thing. And we certainly don't need, less love in communities. We need more. Children need parents who love them, and that just makes us all stronger. So I think that it's important for us to say, we want to share our rights.
I think that, sort of growing up, I saw discrimination and, sort of bad treatment and, insults being, spoken to gay people. And I think that if you don't speak up, that's sort of a tacit sort of agreement, or it plays into the sort of perception that that's an okay thing to do. And I think by being very open about support for for LGBT's rights, and that you can sort of be an evangelist for people who might not know too much about it, or might just still be, harbor discrimination, that sort of thing. So, and it's a powerful lesson for our kids to hear about this, so that they can take that and sort of carry it forward too with their friends.
And as parents, what would you say if another couple came up to you and said that one of our kids just came out to us? Do you have any advice for me?
Well, I don't know, if we can give advice for other parents. All I can say is, from my own family, if that happened in my family, I would feel, no differently, obviously, that my child is my child, and regardless of I love who they are and what they are and everything about them. And I think, to me, the most important thing you can do for any child is to show unconditional love and acceptance. So, my feeling is that, just being there is the thing to do.
I feel good that we live in a state like Massachusetts that has supported marriage equality, for example. I think that's a good example for, it makes it an easier sort of conversation to say, that you're a more equal person in this state than you would be in another state. It also, I think, would raise some sort of difficult things if your kids were thinking about moving to someplace else where they maybe couldn't marry the person that they loved. It might be a more difficult.
Just on a fundamental level, I don't understand the argument that for any rights, for any people, why is it that to deny a right from somebody else somehow makes you better or makes your life better? It doesn't. And, to push people into these boxes and to tell them, well, you can do this and you can't do that, it doesn't help anybody. I think it weakens all of us. And, I thought a lot, don't ask, don't tell. I thought a lot about that. And, did that help the military? No. It forced people to be dishonest. It forced people to not be able to say who they were. And, we don't want people to have to deny who they are. That doesn't strengthen us as a country. So that my feeling is that it just makes us stronger if everyone can live their life and enjoy the same rights and be able to affirm their commitment to one another.